If you notice any of the signs I'm about to outline, I have bad news. They point to one thing: your wife doesn't respect you anymore. And when respect dies, love suffocates. Stay until the end because the last sign is brutal and the hardest to come back from. Miss it, and you're going to stay stuck in a marriage that grinds you down year after year. If you're new here, my name is John DeBach. I help men build the relationship they actually want, not the ones they settle for. I'm not selling anything in this video. This is just free information to help you win at home. I grew a social audience of over 1 million from zero in the last year. I've been a counselor for couples and a relationship coach for nearly a decade and a half. I'm a published author, and I've been on national TV a bunch of times. Most importantly, I've been married for 15 years and I have 4 kids and I live what I teach. A lot of people talk about great relationships without being in one. And I'm not pointing fingers, but if you know, you know. So here is sign number 1. She stops listening when you talk. Not once in a while, but as a pattern. You speak and you can see her eyes glaze over. She reaches for her phone. She interrupts and changes the subject. She answers questions you didn't ask and ignores the ones you did. When a woman respects her husband, she may disagree, she may argue, but she listens. She leans in because she believes there's something in you worth hearing. And when respect fades, your voice becomes background noise in your own home. I had a client once who told me he would start talking about a work decision or a parenting issue, and within 30 seconds, his wife would be scrolling or walking out of the room. He started talking louder. He started repeating himself. He started explaining his points in long paragraphs, and it got worse, not better. That's what happens when you try to sell your value to someone who's already decided you don't have any. You don't talk your way out of a respect deficit. You live your way out. That means you make your words rare and heavy. You say less and you do more. You state your view simply and you follow it with action. You set a time to discuss serious topics and you protect that time. You stop chasing her attention and start commanding your own presence. If she interrupts, you pause. You hold her eyes and you finish your sentence without apologizing. You don't get angry, you don't plead, you don't turn into a lecture. You stay calm and immovable. Respect follows gravity, and gravity comes from a man who knows where he stands. And if you're finding this helpful so far, hit the like and subscribe button. It tells me to keep making videos like this, and it really does help the other men who need this message find it, and it's free, it's easy to do. Sign number 2, she tests boundaries and you let it slide. Disrespect usually starts small: a jab here, a sarcastic comment there, a playful insult that doesn't feel playful. And if you ignore these early tests, they don't disappear, they just grow. I had a client once whose wife loved to make jokes at his expense with his friends. It was always framed as fun. He laughed along because he wanted to be easygoing. But over time, the jokes got meaner. It moved from teasing to contempt, and he ended up being the butt of the joke in every single social setting. Here's what happened. She tested the fence and found no fence. So she kept walking. And that's not because she's evil. It's because people push until they meet something solid. When they meet something solid, they relax. When they meet mush, they keep pushing. What does a solid boundary sound like in real life? It sounds like this: that one was not cool. Don't do that again. Then you drop it. No lecture, no power play, no sulking. And if it happens again, you leave the room or even the event and you don't make a scene. You enforce the line with action. Boundaries without follow through are decorations. Boundaries with follow through are law. I had another client who told his wife very calmly that jokes about his competence in front of the kids were off limits. He said it once. The next time it happened, he stopped the conversation, took a walk with the kids, and came back when the temperature had dropped. And he didn't slam any doors. He didn't argue. He acted. The pattern ended in a week. When you enforce a boundary without anger, you give your wife the safety of a man who can lead himself. That safety is the seed of respect. Sign number 3. She no longer seeks your input or advice. Now, this is a major tell. In a healthy marriage, your wife checks in on decisions that affect both of you because she trusts your judgment. She may not always agree, but she values your mind. When that respect fades, she makes choices without you and informs you after the fact. It's not always malicious, sometimes it's learned helplessness on your side. If for years you've responded to decisions with passivity or avoidance, then you trained her to move without you. I had a client and he came home to find the living room repainted, a new couch arriving, and a vacation booked for spring break. He wasn't consulted on any of it. He told me he felt like a roommate who pays the bills. He wanted to fight about the color and the cost. But the real issue wasn't the couch. The real issue was that he'd lost his role as a trusted partner. So, how did we fix it? He started showing up early in the decision chain. He set a weekly planning session for finances and family logistics, and he led it. He brought options. He proposed budgets. He anticipated problems. He made real decisions about his own schedule and commitments, and he kept them. He stopped saying things like, whatever you want. And he started saying things like, here's what I think is best, and here's why. He didn't demand that she defer to him. He earned it by thinking ahead and owning outcomes. And within a month, she was asking for his thoughts first again. Now, this isn't magic. It's a natural response. It's a response to a man who carries weight. There's a trap here you need to avoid. Don't confuse control with leadership. Control tries to remove her agency. Leadership protects the shared mission and invites her perspective while taking responsibility for the final call when it's yours to make. A wife doesn't respect a man who tries to control her. She respects a man who can control himself and move the family forward. Sign number 4, she shows in public what she thinks in private. So she tells people in public what she thinks about you behind closed door. When contempt becomes normal at home, it eventually leaks into the open. So there's eye rolls in front of friends. There's things like that, right? Correcting your story mid-sentence, mocking your mistakes when others are watching. That's not just a slip. That's a broadcast. It says, I no longer see this man as my equal. I had a client once who said the worst part wasn't the comment itself. It was the way people in the room looked at him. They looked at him with pity. Public disrespect is a major escalation because it tells your social world what your marriage really is. Your friends see it. Your family sees it. Your kids definitely see it. Once that becomes the norm, coming back requires serious change. So here's how you handle it without drama. First, don't perform a fight for the crowd. That makes it worse. Keep your face calm. Let her finish, then say one sentence with an even tone. We're not going to do that. And after the event, name it and lay the line. It's not going to be corrected or mocked in front of others, right? I will not do that. I'm not going to sit there and let you just make fun of me. If it happens again, I will leave. And then you have to follow through. I had a client who did this. He did exactly this. The next time she started to cut him down in front of all of their friends, right? It was at a dinner. He stood up, thanked the host, said, we're going to head out. There was no anger, no lecture. And guess what? It never happened again. Why? Because he made reality heavier than words. He respected himself in public, and that set the conditions for her to respect him again in private. Now, there is another layer here. If you make a habit of telling self-deprecating stories to get laughs, you're training everyone, including your wife, to see you as a clown. So don't confuse humor with self-erosion. Cut that habit. Be warm. Be funny. Don't be your own attack dog. Now, sign number 5. Intimacy becomes transactional, or in many cases, it just disappears altogether. Now, nothing hits harder than this one. When a wife disrespects her husband, or I should say when a wife respects her husband, affection just flows naturally. It doesn't have to be consistent, right? It should be consistent. It doesn't have to be constant or dramatic, but it has a natural ease. When respect dies, affection turns into duty or strategy, becomes a chess move, becomes a bargaining chip, or it dries up completely. I had a client once whose wife said flat out, I feel nothing when you touch me. That line crushed him. He tried compliments, he tried buying gifts, he tried doing more chores. The needle did not move. And here's why. You can't buy your way back into attraction. Attraction sits on top of respect. If she doesn't respect you, her nervous system will not relax with you. Her body will not lean toward you. You can be the kindest man on earth and still feel like a stranger in your own bed if you don't carry yourself like a man she can look up to. So, what do you do when intimacy is gone? You stop chasing. You stop negotiating for touch. You stop asking what's wrong with you like a teenager who needs reassurance. You return to the fundamentals that create respect. You speak with truth cleanly. You enforce boundaries without anger. You lead decisions that are in your lane. You recommit to a mission outside the marriage that matters. You take your body seriously because vitality signals life. And you create real polarity by being decisively masculine. Now, that word triggers people. I'm not talking about posing. I'm not talking about the simple traits that draw a woman in. Direction, calm under pressure, moral clarity, self-control, a spine. When those are present, when all those masculine elements are present, intimacy grows because she can relax around you. And when those are absent, intimacy shrinks because she feels like she has to carry both roles. Another client of mine who'd been in a 2-year dry spell, he thought the only issue was her stress. And he wasn't wrong. She was overwhelmed, but she was also carrying all the leadership at home because he avoided conflict and he dodged decisions. So we rebuilt his habits. He took ownership of mornings with the kids 3 days a week. He scheduled and ran the budget meeting every Sunday. Now, that might be extreme for some of you, but for them, it was necessary. He stopped apologizing for every boundary he held. He started training again, and he lost 20 pounds. He took his wife on a real date each week and chose the plan without waiting for her to coordinate it. He didn't talk about intimacy at all for 6 weeks. Then one night, she reached for him, not because he begged or bartered, but because she felt something in him that had been missing. She felt safety, direction, desire anchored by presence. Attraction followed respect like spring follows winter. Let me tell you a story about one of my clients that brings all of this together. He came in saying his wife never listened. She mocked him with friends, made decisions without him, and had shut down physically. He wanted tricks to get her attention back. There are no tricks. There's only the man you become. We built a simple plan, 3 parts. First, he wrote down his values in 10 lines. No essays, just 10 things he stands for. He read them every morning and every night to remind himself of who he is. Second, he set 3 non-negotiable boundaries and decided exactly what action he would take if they were crossed. He practiced those lines out loud so he could say them calmly. Third, he took leadership in one domain that he had abandoned. For him, it was money. He faced the numbers. He set a plan and ran the weekly meeting. In 4 weeks, his wife was not rolling her eyes at dinner. In 8 weeks, she was asking his opinion before buying anything over a certain dollar amount. And in 3 months, she initiated more physical touch than she had in the last year. There's nothing mystical here. A man stood up. Respect returned. Intimacy followed. That's the order. Respect first, everything else second. I want you to listen to me carefully. If she does not listen when you talk, if she tests your boundaries and you let it slide, if she stops seeking your input, if she disrespects you in public, and if intimacy has become transactional or non-existent, you are not in a rough patch. You are in a respect deficit. You do not fix a respect deficit with flowers, weekend getaways, or long speeches about how you feel. You fix it by being a man who's easy to respect. That means you say what you mean and you mean what you say. You take responsibility for the results of your choices. You protect what matters without turning into a cop. You remain calm when the room gets hot. You don't need her to validate you before you move. You include her because you value her, not because you're afraid of her. You keep your promises to yourself and to your family. If you do that relentlessly day after day, her nervous system will feel it. The tests will slow down. The tone will soften. The eye contact will linger. The touch will return. And if it doesn't, well, then you still have your self-respect. which is the foundation for any and every decision that you're going to make next. Here is the last harsh truth. A marriage can't survive long without respect. Now, you can keep the house, you can share the calendar, you can co-parent, you can be polite, you can perform the role, but underneath, resentment will harden and loneliness will spread. Don't accept that as your fate. Decide who you will be and then become it. You will either resurrect respect in your home, or you're going to walk forward with your head high and your integrity intact. Both outcomes are better than dying slowly in a relationship that treats you like a ghost. Now, if you do want to work with me, I have a very private and exclusive men's group where we dive into your issues one-on-one. If you're interested, the info is in the description below. Thanks for watching.